this past week in rugby saw the Springboks taking home the Rugby Championship. We have a champion crowned in the Farrah Palmer Cup in New Zealand, and the inaugural Super Rugby Australia champion was crowned in Perth. Hello and welcome to the Rugby Roundup, the 8th of October, 2025. My name is Big Mike. We are here at Big Mike Rugby. Now let's get on talking about that beautiful sport that we all know and love, Rugby Union. Also this week we look forward to another big week of club rugby action around the world, and the playoffs for Sudamerica 3 begin in South America. Winner of that one goes through to that last chance playoff for a spot in the Rugby World Cup in 2027. But enough of all that. Let's get to the roundup. We are going to start with international rugby. There was no international women's rugby because the World Cup finished. But we did have a mighty couple of games in the men's game, including our last week of Rugby Championship action. We started in Perth. It was the Wallabies hosting the All Blacks, with both of these teams still having a chance to win the Rugby Championship. And if there is one thing I'm going to say about this game, it was there. It was all right. Look, good things happen. Quinn Tupaia playing his first game as centre for the All Blacks, scoring 2 tries. Tane Edmed had a solid game off the tee, kicking for Australia, keeping them in touch. At halftime, this one was 17 points to 9 to the All Blacks, despite scoring 3 tries in that first half. They ended up winning this one 28 points to 14, the 11th time in a row that the Wallabies have lost to the All Blacks. After such an amazing start of the Rugby Championship, the Wallabies ended without much of a hiss and a roar. The All Blacks have a lot of momentum going into their last 4 games of the season in November. That put the All Blacks on top of the table, 4 points ahead of South Africa, meaning that South Africa needed a win to claim the Rugby Championship. That then took us to London, where Argentina hosted South Africa. In this game, it was okay. It was just okay. Halftime was 13 points to 10 in Argentina's favour before a big 20 minutes saw South Africa get out to 29 points to 27. 29 points to 13 before winning 29 points to 27. After South Africa really turned it on, which was helped by a yellow card to Argentina in the 43rd minute, there was no coming back in this one. Argentina tried, but they couldn't keep their momentum, which saw them get a victory over Australia and one over New Zealand earlier in the competition. This means that South Africa won the Rugby Championship based on points differential, beating New Zealand by plus 49 points. Meaning the biggest difference in this competition was the 33-point victory South Africa had over New Zealand. In Wellington, final results of the Rugby Championship 2025, South Africa winning its second in a row. South Africa first, New Zealand second, Australia third, and Argentina came fourth. And that's it for international action. But not it for rugby full stop, because we go into the club game now, and we will start with men's club action with the URC. Leinster had their first 2 games in South Africa. In round 1, in that opening game of the season, they went down to the Stormers 35 points to 0. In round 2 last weekend, they went down to the Bulls. This one was much closer and a great little game, but the Bulls won 39 points to 31. Leinster 0-2 somehow after the first 2 rounds of the URC. Other results saw the Stormers take on Ospreys. The Dragons drew with the Sharks. Dragons started out mightily fine. That draw came out of nowhere. Benetton got a great come-from-behind victory against Glasgow. They were down 14-3 at half-time before winning 16-14. Munster win over Cardiff. This one was 23 points to 20. Bit of a shock with Zebre winning their second game out of 2. 22-20 over the Lions. This one was a try and a conversion in the final minute. Up Zebre. And we had 2 games cancelled over the weekend. That Storm Amy just taking care of business up north. Edinburgh versus Ulster postponed. Connacht versus Scarlets also postponed. After 2 weeks, we have the Bulls, Stormers, Munster and Zebre with 2 from 2. Other unbeaten teams, Ulster and Connacht, had their games postponed on the weekend. Teams so far without a victory: Scarlets, Leinster, Ospreys, Lions, Dragons, Sharks and Edinburgh. To round 2 of the Prem. How did our defending champions do? Well, they did well. 28-16 over the Saleh Sharks, a win for Bath. The Exeter Chiefs got a victory against the Newcastle Red Bull Falcon Red Bull Newcastle, 38 points to 15. Leicester, 29-19 over Harlequins. Huge loss for the Bristol Bears. They went down to 50 points to 17 against Saracens. And in the game of the week, Northampton took out Gloucester, 37 points to 35. This one was wild, with Northampton getting up to 31-0 in the first half, before a couple of converted tries and a couple of penalties for Northampton, but 5 unanswered converted tries for Gloucester. They couldn't quite get there in the end. After 2 weeks, Saracens sit on top, the only other unbeaten squad of Bath. Teams without a victory so far: Newcastle, Red Bull Falcon, Red Bull Newcastle, Harlequins, and Gloucester. To round 5 in the French top 14. Clermont. What can we say? Clermont versus Montauban. 84 points to 31. This was our biggest win of the week. Other results: Montpellier took it to La Rochelle, 37 to 13. Racing 92 went down, this time to Custis, who scored again a last-minute try. There were a few of these this week, taking it 20 to 16. Toulon dealt with Pop, 33 to 17. Stade Francais Paris beat Perpignan, 28 points to 11. Bordeaux climbing up again, 32-20 over Lyon. And last year's champions Toulouse went down Bayonne. It was 40 points to 26 to Bayonne. After 5 weeks, Bayonne sit on top with 4 victories from 5. They are followed by Stade Francais Paris, Toulon, Bordeaux, Toulouse, and Pau. In the top 6, Montauban and Perpignan have not had a victory thus far. Now let's see how we go this week, talking about Pro Division 2, D2 in France. My beloved Vannes bet Dax, 16 points to 15. Brive bet Oyonnax, 33-18. Béziers bet Carcassonne, 31-19. Biarritz lost to Aurillac, 19 points to 13. Colomiers bet again, 31-5. Nevers bet Sayo Angoulême, 33-10. Valence Romans got back in the winners group with a good 35 points to 21 victory over Stade Montois. And Grenoble went down to Provence, 24 points to 23. After 6 weeks, up top we have Colomiers with 5 victories from 6. Following them in the top 6 we have Vannes, Brive, Nevers again, and Valence Romans. The last round of the New Zealand NPC, North Harbour got an upset victory over Southland, 15 points to 14, finally getting them a victory in their last game. Oh my goodness, my computer's going off. It was their last game, and it was Mark Talia's last game in New Zealand. Otago dealt it to Auckland, 51 points to 17. Last year's defending champs Wellington lost again 33-26, this time to Bay of Plenty. Waikato secured their spot in the top 8 with a 25-19 victory over Northland. Hawke's Bay defeated Manawatu 38-10. Canterbury took it to Taranaki 34-14. And in a game that Counties Manukau needed to win to make the top 8, they beat Tasman 49 points to 41. No defence whatsoever. The top 8 going into the quarterfinals are Canterbury, Otago, Bay of Plenty, Hawke's Bay, Taranaki, Tasman, Waikato, and Counties Manukau. Earlier in the season, those 3 Auckland-based teams, Auckland, Counties, and North Harbour, were bottom of the table, so good job to Counties for getting up there, but they did knock Northland out. Bottom of the table, end of the season, North Harbour. In the final of Super Rugby Australia, the Waratahs travelled to Perth and won 33 points to 26. They won it with a 79th minute converted try. It was 26-all. We were looking at extra time. And then the Waratahs did what always happens to the Force, and that's causing a Force loss. Taking a quick squiz at the Heartland Championship in New Zealand. We are heading to the semi-finals. In the Meads Cup, which is the top 4, it is Mid-Canterbury hosting Wairarapa Bush and South Canterbury hosting Thames Valley this weekend. In the Lacour Cup, which is the next level down, we have Whanganui hosting Horowhenua Kapiti and North Otago taking on Poverty Bay. Because when you think of New Zealand, you think of Poverty Bay. And for those wondering, Poverty Bay is Gisborne. To Women's Club Rugby now, we hit the final in the Farrah Palmer Cup, the New Zealand Domestic Women's League. And in that final, Waikato defeated Canterbury 19 points to 13. They have won it. They were winning 12 points to 8 at half time. A try each in the second half, and that was it. Waikato taking home the championship yet again. Congratulations. Now a little bit of advertising. Big Mike Rugby. If you want me to talk about any games, any teams, any competitions, best place to do it, let me know on the interwebs. Instagram, Big Mike Rugby. I'm on X. I'm on YouTube. Or you can comment under anywhere that you can find the Rugby Roundup with Big Mike. Ta! Spoke to a good friend this week, my friend Katie down in Melbourne, who said she wants nothing more than more rugby on her TV. Well done, my friend. Now let's look forward to this week. We have one game in international rugby, and it is Brazil taking on Paraguay. These two teams will play in a home and away series, with the winner being dubbed Sudamerica 3 and making their way into the last chance for qualification tournament with Belgium, Namibia, and Samoa. The last meeting between these two nations was in last August in 2024, with Brazil narrowly getting the win, 77 points to 17. Looking at their form in the last few games, Paraguay, they've gone down to Brazil in that game, then they lost to Chile, then they got up and beat Colombia before losing twice to Uruguay. Brazil have lost 3 times to Chile, but in a huge little game from last year, they beat Hong Kong China, a team that have already qualified for the World Cup. Good luck to both squads. Good luck. Now let's look forward to some club rugby this week with another huge week everywhere. We're going to start in the URC. What games have we got in round 3 in the URC? Munster are hosting Edinburgh. Scarlets hosting the Stormers. Benetton hosts the Lions. Ospreys are taking on the undefeated Zebre. Glasgow hosts the Dragons. Ulster are taking on the Bulls. And Cardiff are playing Connacht. Leinster, who have already lost to 2 South African squads, are hosting the Sharks. So far, the Sharks squad has had a loss and a draw. Round 3 of the Premiership in England sees the Sale Sharks hosting Newcastle, the Bristol Bears hosting the Exeter Chiefs, who are on a bit of a roll, the Northampton Saints versus the Leicester Tigers, great rivalry there, Bath hosting Gloucester, and the Harlequins hosting Saracens. Can Saracens stay at the top of the table? Round 6 in the top 14. We have Po versus top of the table Bayonne. There's a top 6 clash. We've got Lyon hosting the winless Perpignan. Racing 92 take on Montpellier. Stade Francais Paris versus La Rochelle. Can Montauban get their first victory against Castres? Clermont, coming off that huge victory, face a big challenge in Toulon, and it is a grand final replay. The 2 big dogs, Toulouse versus Bordeaux. You know what? There aren't any games in D2 this week, and I'm pretty sad about it. But we have quarterfinals in the New Zealand NPC. We have Otago, second place, hosting Waikato. Bay of Plenty versus Tasman, Hawke's Bay versus Taranaki, and Canterbury versus Counties Manukau. Reminder that last year's semi-finalists were Bay of Plenty, Canterbury, Waikato, and Wellington. As I mentioned earlier, we've also got those Heartland Championship semi-finals as well. And you know what? With Super Rugby Australia done and the Currie Cup in South Africa done, you might be thinking, hey, is that it? Are we done for club rugby? No. Because this weekend sees the first round in one of my favourite competitions in the world. Ladies and gentlemen, it is the return of the Rugby Europe Super Cup. Now, last year's champions were Black Lion from Georgia. So, who won it the year before that? Black Lion from Georgia. The year before that, Black Lion from Georgia. And the year before that, Black Lion from Georgia. This is a team that also plays in the European Challenge Cup. However, they are in talks to join the URC. Don't know how official things are, but with the Welsh Rugby Union talking about taking their teams from 4 to 2, is that going to open the door for Black Lion to actually make a play and be in one of the top comps? So our defending champions are out. Last year the runner-ups were Lusitanos XV from Portugal. Third place were the Iberians from Spain. So let's look at the 6 teams involved. As previously mentioned, we've got Lusitanos from Portugal, based in Lisbon, and based in Burgos, Spain, we have Castilla y León Iberians, or as I like to call them, Iberians. We also have Delta, my favourite team, based in Amsterdam in the Netherlands. Hello to all my Dutch fans. We've got the Romanian Wolves from, guess what, Romania, based in Bucharest. We have based in Prague, the Bohemian Warriors, technically the Bohemia Rugby Warriors. And finally, from Belgium, we have the Brussels Devils from Brussels. And their coach has my favourite name, Sebastian Guns. With 6 teams, it's going to be a lot easier to follow this competition this year than it was last year, where some teams were playing twice over a week. Our first 3 games, we have Iberians hosting the Brussels Devils. The Romanian Wolves host Delta, the Dutch Delta, and Lusitanos host the Bohemian Rugby Warriors. What a cool week. What a cool bunch of games to look forward to. Now we're done. And now we're done talking about all the rugby coming up. It sounds a bit quiet compared to the last few weeks, but there are some mighty good things in our future. So let's look at Big Mike's Big 3 games. If you've only got time to watch one, see one, follow one, whatever when it comes to rugby, maybe make sure it's one of these guys. No big international games this week unless you can find out a way to watch Paraguay taking on Brazil. So for my Big 3 this week, I'm going to start in the URC And we could choose anything, but I'm going to go with Leinster hosting the Sharks. Can Leinster finally get a victory and avenge South Africa? Then in the NPC in New Zealand, we have our quarterfinals. And my pick for what I think will be the best quarterfinal, I'm going with 3rd versus 6th as the Bay of Plenty Steamers host the Tasman Mako. Despite some All Blacks coming back and playing in this weekend's games, these two teams are sticking to what they know and the great players that have made it this far. Final game in Big Mike's Big 3 this weekend. Let's go to the top 14 as Toulouse take on Bordeaux. This game is never poor. It is always close. It is always fun. Let's hope for another big banger in France. All right. What more can I say? Isn't rugby beautiful? So many awesome games to watch. Even the bad ones are still good, and they're still better than some other sports. Like kickies, aka AFL. Anyway, from all of us here at Big Mike Rugby, me, I hope you all have a beautiful week and watch some beautiful rugby.